From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Yeah, I don't say no love song.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com, the website. All the haps on the apps over on the website. Do come out this weekend to Tallahassee for the Garnet and Gold Spring Game. It is April 9th, Saturday, 5 p.m. But the night before, from 5 to 6, happy hour over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Live show with Jeff Cameron and Corey Clark. There'll also probably be a little bit of a meet and greet afterwards. I'll be lingering around. Maybe Tom, maybe myself. Maybe we can get the Big Dog Irish Chauffeur out there, Corey. Maybe we can shoot for the moon. But if not, Saturday, Hotel Indigo, meet and greet at noon on game day, 1 o'clock, pregame show with Jeff and Tom. There will be a watch-along with Gene and Tom, I think, on YouTube, and then the postgame show with Gene and Tom as well. So action-packed weekend. Going to be a little soggy midweek, it looks like, Corey, but, man, the extended forecast on my weather app looks amazing this week. I think Saturday's like a high of 72, lows in the 40s. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever trust my weather app.
Okay.
Maybe that day I'll look at it and see like what it says. But other than that thing has been utterly useless. At least my phone. Maybe I got a faulty phone, but the weather app on my phone is always wrong. But I'm saying yours is probably right. I hope it's right, Aslan. I hope it's right, and I hope we have a beautiful weekend.
That's right. Lots coming up on the show for you today. We got Michael Langston breaking down the latest in recruiting. We also have Matthew Quigley from Rising Spear to talk about NIL and how maybe you folks can get involved in helping out the Noles and just how we all can maybe help. It's a brave new world out there, Corey. Either we're going to get left behind or we got to jump aboard. So let's grease the skids, if you will. Bad weekend in baseball. I was out there for most of it. Don't want to talk about it. Maybe later on. Softball doing great. We'll get to our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week later on the program as well. But let's start with what puts food on the table, keeps the bills paid. Football! Yeah! Football! Yeah! Scrimmage Saturday. We weren't able to go and watch it. It's fine. It's part of the rules. But we did speak to all the coordinators and head football coach Mike Norvell. We should have Ira on the show. Ira had 5 takeaways from the scrimmage. That guy, workhorse.
Well, look, we talked after the interviews on Saturday, the Zoom interviews, and he's like, look, we could do a story on how the defense played today, or maybe like a 5 takeaways. And I'm like, how are we gonna do that, big dog? How are we gonna have 5 takeaways from a scrimmage we didn't watch? But Ira managed. Ira did it. And who knows? Ira might have been in there. Ira's a master of disguise. He might have posed as a trainer.
Yeah.
They have look, if you're at one of their practices, they have 50 or 60 people out there at least that you have no idea exactly what their role is. They're affiliated with the team somehow. Mostly trainers, managers, something like that. Ira could fit right in. He just comes in with a backpack and like holding a boom mic. Yeah, nobody would notice him.
We just need to make up a fictitious high school and just make one polo shirt and send like an intern out there. Like,
what was the one that IMG played last August?
Oh yes, Bishop Sycamore or Sycamore
yeah,
or something.
let's be I'll be the OC for Bishop Sycamore.
Yeah. It's like, I just want to check out the practice, establish a relationship, build a pipeline.
Yeah.
All that said, it sounds like the defense, I think that probably would have been my takeaway in terms of what we heard from Mike Norvell. At least when it comes to first team, he singled out the defense. Adam Fuller seemed pretty happy with what they're getting out of that. What does that mean then, Corey? Again, we've been focusing on the offense. We always will focus on the offense, especially in this day and age, especially when your head coach is an offensive-minded guy. It's not going to be calling the plays. But this defense, we're always cautiously kind of gauging it because of what they've lost this past season. But it remains to be, I don't know, it will not cease to amaze me how kind of giddy I will get whenever I do hear about the defense continuing to kind of shine. And I don't know why, man. I've always been the offensive guy, but maybe this defense can be the difference-making sort of part of this equation going into 2022. But what does it mean if the defense is still doing this well, nearly a month into spring football?
Yeah, without seeing it, it did sound like, Norvell used the term dominant to talk about the first-team defense. Now, there is a clear line of demarcation between the two defenses, first and second team. The second team has some work to do. First team has been pretty good since other than that one day, the Thursday before the first scrimmage, I think the first team defense has been pretty darn solid. And like Fuller brought up on Saturday, the Thursday practice, the stuff they did to start practice, the team stuff, that first team defense did not do well at all. I think they gave up 3 straight touchdowns on 3 straight red zone plays. But other than that, they've held their own and more than held their own, I thought, against the first team offense for the most part. Which again, that it's fine, it's great, great. You want your defense to be playing well, but man, if this program is going to do something this year, the offense can't be getting dominated. And what worries me a little bit, Aslan, is that I get the impression they don't play Lovett and Cooper that much in these scrimmages. Like even on this past Saturday, they talked about how they need work, but they also need to give the other guys work because they played a lot of football. And I just don't think 0 and 91 are playing a ton, and yet you're still having a hard time moving the ball. That doesn't bode all that well for me. Because look, who are you playing against? You're playing against defensive tackles that have not really accomplished anything in college, and 2 defensive ends that haven't accomplished a whole lot. I mean, Verse was, I assume he's running first team for the most part, but he was, he was at Albany. So they're not going up against a stout defensive line, and yet they're still struggling. That's concerning. And the fact that your quarterback threw 2 picks, and his strength is that he doesn't throw picks, is also a little bit concerning, but it could have just been a bad day. And I will say this, I don't know how much they mix and match with that receiving core. I personally am going to first guess it and say right now they need to start mixing and matching more. You need to give 13 more reps with Johnny Wilson and Micah Pittman. Yeah, you need to. Quit pussyfooting around with that. Let him throw to those guys too, because theoretically, and you brought it up, you asked Norvell and he scoffed at the question. Jordan Travis is our starting quarterback. Okay, great. But he's not playing like the starting. I shouldn't say that. He's not playing any better than the guy behind him right now, in my opinion, from what we've watched. And then he had a bad scrimmage. And I do think part of that, number one, he's going up against much better defensive players. That's first and foremost. That does matter. But also, maybe he's not getting to throw to the best receivers on the team. And maybe if you think Micah Pittman and Johnny Wilson are guys that are going to be counted on a lot in 2022, which I get the impression they do, why not have 13 throw to them all the time? I don't know. That's just me. That's one, like when anytime I talk about Tate and how good he's looked, and he has looked very good, it's always, I always have to throw in the caveat, well, yeah, he's getting to play with maybe the best receivers. And, and I think maybe, and I say this having no idea what happened in the scrimmage. Maybe they do mix and match more in the scrimmage. But, man, in practice, Tate gets to throw to the best receivers a good portion of the time, right? That's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really believe, I think Pittman's had the best. I don't know, man. Jakai's looked really good too. But I think in terms of guys that are natural wide receivers, if you will, I think Pittman's had maybe the best spring. Pokey not far behind, but yeah, it seems like Pokey's usually running with 13, and those other guys are kind of not.
I just wonder why. Why are they doing that?
Yeah,
at this point, why? Like, okay, great. You don't want a newcomer to come in and just automatically be on the first team. I get that. That makes sense for competition purposes. The new guy has to earn his spot. I feel like, especially Micah Pittman has earned his spot to run more with the first team unit. And it's not happening a lot, if at all. And you wonder, like, okay, when are they going to be? That guy's got to build some chemistry with Micah Pittman. He's got to build some chemistry with Johnny Wilson. Those guys are going to be counted on a lot. And so far that hasn't happened, and you're almost through the spring now. So it'll be interesting to see what the Garnet and Gold rosters are even like what they even do for that.
Yeah. I mean, and the reason I wasn't trying to be like subversive or controversial when I asked Norvell the question. I asked just basically when he comes out and talks about how dominant the first team defense was and how he was, very excited for that, and then he talked about how happy he was with the second team offense. Oh, right. I'm just like, well, naturally, I mean, is Tate making a move for this thing? And he quickly was like, no, it's Jordan Travis, our quarterback. So that's why I was kind of finding a little bit sort of worth asking him about. But to come back maybe to the defense real quick, Corey, because a lot of people were commenting on YouTube about the shows from last week about, I guess me more so, but kind of the theme of us thinking that probably they're going to have to go into the portal and get another dude on the defensive line. Like, oh, well, this means they must not like Malcolm Ray and Jarrett Jackson. To which I was like, well, actually, we really haven't talked about those guys a lot. They're out there. I don't know if they're flashing maybe enough to where they've caught my attention to bring him up in the show, but Malcolm Ray's at least a guy that I think gave you some good reps last season. No reason to think that he can't replicate that, but I don't know if we've seen anything that's kind of like built upon that and made you feel like he's taken the next step. So I'm not trying to dog those guys by omission, but it just haven't maybe seen anything that I think was, noticeable growth since last year. Is that something that needs to be factored in when we talk about the defensive line? Maybe we'll see more out of Jarrett. Maybe we'll see more out of Malcolm in the preseason camp, and those are guys that we should perhaps hope that they can count on, or do you still think maybe the portal is where they got to go for that need, if there is a need?
Yeah, I think the question is that, say there's somebody in the portal that's from a pretty good program and has really good film or good film. All right, is he better than what you have? And if he is, go get him. You're allowed to make those. I know. You don't want to be rude to a kid, but if there's a guy out there in the portal that's better than Malcolm Ray, go get him, because Malcolm Ray has not established himself at all. Same with Jarrett Jackson. I think Jackson has a little more talent, and there have been some more plays with him, in my opinion, where he kind of flashes. He's just got that size and physicality, and quickness too for his size. He could be something. Norvell brought him up Saturday, and Norvell brings him up constantly about what he could be. Well, he isn't it yet. Maybe it happens, but he's not that yet. And I just think you have to be ready if one of those. You got to get better on the defensive line. They haven't been bad on the defensive line this spring, I don't think. But that's where, that's what Fuller was even saying after the scrimmage. It's like it all starts with the defensive line. And it should be fun to play defensive line at Florida State because all you have to do is attack, which that was a comment he made on Saturday too. And I think the first four would be pretty darn good. The second four, I have no idea. And if there's a proven commodity out there, I'm not expecting a Jermaine Johnson to come out, but, that would be great. But somebody like that. Somebody that's from a bigger school that maybe hasn't gotten a ton of playing time but has put up good film and just wants more snaps. I don't see why you wouldn't go make a run at somebody like that. I don't think the depth on your defensive line is still a little worrisome to me. And Malcolm Ray and Jarrett Jackson, in my opinion, this spring haven't done anything to solidify your concerns. To alleviate your concerns. Right. I think they're still there. The spring game will tell us a lot, or tell us some anyway. But man, maybe they played great on Saturday. Maybe that was one of the issues that Travis and the first teamers were having, was the middle of the defensive line was playing really well and they couldn't do anything. That could be it. I don't know, but I just know from what we've seen in practice, to me, neither one have really stood out to the point where you'd be like, yeah, no, we're all set here. Thanks.
Yeah. I do kind of want to go back to what you said, and I agree with it, that when you hear about the defense dominating, you do kind of maybe sit back and kind of take inventory, and maybe it goes back to a question that we were asked on a live show about how many NFL draft picks are on this football team, or at least, this year other than Jermaine. Well, let's spin it forward and maybe think about what we have this season going into the 23 draft. And we like Fabian, we like Cooper. I don't know if they're second, third round guys. I don't think they'll be day one guys, but who knows? Maybe they can work themselves into creating a new narrative around them. I think we like the idea of Tatum Bethune and just having a guy with that kind of experience to add to your linebacking core, and what Amari can maybe be with his tools. And then you have DJ and Steven Dix kind of trying to figure out the rest of it. Like the secondary, I like Amari and Cooper. But again, to hear dominant, I don't know if we've ever really kind of put these guys in these sort of, under these titles to be dominant. So then do we think that the offensive line is maybe more of a problem than we thought? Maybe we were past that. I know we weren't at the game, or at the scrimmage, so it's really hard to kind of, have conjecture about this stuff. But alas, that's what we have to do for the next few minutes on this show today, Corey. So ultimately, do you think that this is more of a case that maybe the defense is better than we're giving them credit for, or maybe this offense still needs to get onto a sort of page to get to that 8-9 win sort of floor threshold that we're hoping for?
Yeah, it could be that the defense is better than we would think. If the linebackers take a step up, which you would assume they have with Bethune, and then the defensive line holds its own, like it's not going to be as good as it was last year because it lost a great defensive end and a good defensive end, but it could be serviceable to good, period. Like last year, though, that starting defensive line was, I don't know, the second best in the conference, one of the 20 best in the country. I mean, it was really good. The front four, the starters, really good production-wise, play-wise. I mean, they had a couple bad games or not great games, but they were pretty good against the run. They rushed the passer. That was a good defensive line. So if it can just be a solid to decent defensive line, which those two guys in the middle are good, there are not going to be a lot of better combos than that guy. Those two guys, again, health,
notwithstanding, right? Yeah.
The health notwithstanding. The defensive ends, I do like Verse. I think he has a chance to be something, and McClendon certainly thinks he's the guy, so that's big. My man thinks he's the best defensive end in the country, which I love. It might be a little goofy to hear, but, man, I love that. You got to have guys that think they're really good, and I don't think it's false. I don't think it's false confidence. I think the guy really believes that he's awesome. And, heck, that's half the battle. I didn't believe I was a good podcast host till a couple weeks ago, and now you've seen I've just kind of the lids off. I mean, it's crazy. I've caught fire. So McClendon thinks he's great. Verse could be great, and then they really like Briggs if he works himself back into shape after the injury. But there's so many unproven guys, unknowns on the defensive line. That's my concern. But otherwise, the linebackers should be better. They will be better. And then the secondary could be good, man. Like, I think Noles is a good player. Yeah. You think Cooper is the next Jalen, which is awesome. That's fine. I'm not saying he's been good. Aslan's not wrong. That guy's been locked down the whole the whole spring. And then you've got a safety in Jamie Robinson, who's one of the best safeties in the conference. And then maybe is Akeem Dent, who had 2 picks. Right. He was the kind of the star of the scrimmage on Saturday. And
You've got all that Akeem stock, Corey.
That's right. All I said was if he could just start catching the ball, and here he is, he's doing it. So you've got Akeem maybe coming into his own at safety with 2 interceptions on Saturday. He also had an interception on Thursday. If he can be that kind of guy, not a guy that's going to get 2 picks a game, but a good player, not a great player, not a future All-Pro, but a good player, then you've got a good secondary too. Like, you're going to give up points because it's 2022. But, maybe the defense is better than we thought because, yes, they got a couple big losses. But, man, Cooper and Lovett coming back is a huge deal. Bethune's addition is really big. And then you talk about Cooper. Jamie Robinson coming back was also a really big deal. So now you feel solidified in the back end with guys that have played a lot. And what I'm really wondering, Fuller made a comment about I think he was asked about Sam McCall. Maybe it was Azarie. Come on, Clark.
Y'all think Azarie. He's the next Jalen. Yeah, let's get it right.
Yeah. But the point being, he was asked about McCall and how well he'd been playing because he'd had a good practice the day before. And he's like, that was probably his best practice production-wise. And then he's like, look, we like what these young guys give us. We think they have a really good future. And look at what we did last year with Duke and Noles. If they were the best players, they played. Basically saying, if Thomas and McCall are good enough, they might play for him. He doesn't, especially at corner, right? Like, he really wants those 2 safeties to be the 2 safeties. I think that's what we're learning from Fuller since about the midway point of last season. The corner's fine, rotate them if you want. He wants those 2 back end guys to not change. He thinks that killed him last year. And so Robinson and Dent, you would think. Maybe Shaheem gets some love. He's had some nice practices. He wants those 2 guys to probably be the starters. And then the corners, he might rotate some, and McCall and Thomas might play. And they're good, man. I think they have a chance to both be good.
Yeah.
But will this defense be good? I don't know. Will it be better than last year? I don't know. It should be, though, right? The more I talk myself into it, if Verse can be anything at all, if Verse and McClendon can be, I don't know, if they can combine for, 14 sacks? Yeah. And 15 quarterback pressures, this defense probably, if it can stay healthy, should be better than last year because your interior will be better if they're healthier, your linebackers are better, and your secondary is better. So, they should. Maybe they are dominant. Maybe they're the 2003 Ravens. Is that the year they won it?
2001?
2000 Ravens. I bet the 03 Ravens were pretty good too, though.
Yeah. Not bad.
Like the 88 Bears.
Yeah, they're still good. Still doing
Still
work.
good. Still had Singletary out there barking at people.
And then just last thing, they've got practice Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, spring game Saturday, and then the following Tuesday. So that's 5 remaining practices in spring. And to your point of them mixing and matching, and I asked Fuller about that because it seemed like I thought the defense more than the offense was doing a lot more mixing and matching. Like we were seeing, true freshmen running on second team units, and it's like, why are they running with a second team unit? But I think Fuller was saying they want to create competitive opportunities in practice for these guys to kind of see what they're made of.
Yeah.
But with only 5 practices remaining in spring, like I don't think it'd be changing course to maybe, limit what you're mixing and matching. But at least on offense, do you think? It's a hope. How advantageous would it be if we were able to maybe see these next 5 practices kind of have a more stable upperclassman-led, I guess, first team offense, if you will? I think the offensive line's been kind of steady. We've seen the same 5 guys by and large. We know it's Jordan. Running backs, whatever, you plug and play them. Cam's your tight end. But is it vital maybe to see these receivers kind of maybe figure out their roles? Because I don't know. Or do you just think that since Micah Pittman is a little bit older, Johnny Wilson is a little bit older, Pokey's been in the program forever, Ja'Kai Doug's a little bit older, that you could start up in July or August and be like, all right, like we know these are the guys we want to roll with. We'll be fine. It doesn't matter that we didn't have them all together in March.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're going to do a lot of their own work in the offseason. And so it's not the end of the world. It's just if Coach Corey Clark was running the practices, I would have Jordan Travis play more with the new guys. Not all the time, because look, Pokey's been good too.
Yes.
But my personal opinion right now, and it's just my opinion, I could be completely wrong. I haven't talked to Dugans, haven't watched film with him. If I was going to have a 3-receiver set, it would be Pokey, Pittman, and Johnny Wilson. Those are my 3 guys. I love you, Ja'Kai. Portier's had some nice moments, but yeah, McLean too. But those are my 3 guys that would get the majority of the reps in my offense right now with my first team offense. And that I don't know that combination's ever been on the field together. And so I just think, man, I guess you could do it in Duquesne. You could do it August 15th. But I just feel like the more time they work together, the better that they could have a connection. I mean, it's just, Jordan Travis is going to be your starting quarterback. You know it. That's undeniable. It's been said 30 times. So, and you also know Pittman and Johnny Wilson are going to play for you. I don't know if they start, but they're going to get a lot of run and a lot of snaps. So let them on the field with Jordan Travis more. Let them try to develop a chemistry. You brought them here for a reason, and it wasn't to play with Tate Rodemaker, frankly. As good as Rodemaker's been, it wasn't to play with him. So to me, it would make more sense to let Jordan Travis have a little more work with those guys too. But it's not the end of the world. What are we, just 10 spring practices in? It's not the end of the world. We'll see what this week is like, and we'll see what the spring game is like. But I would just, in competitive settings, not just against air, or not just 7-on-7s when it's player run, but in competitive settings, I'd like to see how my starting quarterback works with the 2 big weapons you brought in.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It's that time. Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Corey, I will let you have honors on Masters Week, brother. Go for it.
Oh, and I'm choosing somebody that has a connection with the Masters.
Hey-o.
I don't even think I told you that.
We didn't plan this at all, no.
Yeah, Beatrice, I think it's Wallin.
Okay, yeah.
It's spelled Wallin, Wallin, but on the broadcast they were saying Wallin. Florida State Seminole golfer. She was at the Augusta Women's Amateur in Augusta. The last round was played on the course. You know the course. And she finished 3rd. I think she finished tied for 3rd, 2 shots away from winning it. And I didn't know this, Aslan, but it's her 3rd straight year finishing in the top 3, I think, which is crazy. That's nuts. But yeah, I watched her for probably 2 hours on Saturday. She's, as you can imagine, very good at golf. That's a dumb thing to say, Corey. But congratulations to her. It's it's amateurs from all over the world too now. It's not just United States amateurs. I mean, I think she's from Sweden. So it's amateurs from all over the world playing in this. It's a really prestigious thing. And for her to finish 3rd, 2 shots out of the lead is really remarkable. And she's been there now 3 years in a row. So congrats to her. She's really, really, really good.
She's actually tied for 4th But yeah,
Whatever.
close enough. Yeah, one over.
Yeah, I was there.
Anna Davis from the United States won it at 1 under. So that's a good one. I'm going to go to the Diamond, but not Meats guys. We'll talk about that later. But shout out to the Lion, the ladies. Kaylee Harding, a big weekend out of her. Goes 6 of 11 with 7 ribbies in a sweep of Virginia, setting the stage for a massive week for the softball program. They've got the Gators in Gainesville Wednesday, and then Virginia Tech comes to town. And I think Virginia Tech's like 5th right now in the nation.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I don't know, man. They usually kind of snipe with us, but
They're rolling with those NIL money. I mean, they must be doing something in Blacksburg. Who would want to go play softball in Blacksburg? Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Anywho, Kaylee Harding, big-time performance out of her. 2 for 4 ribbies one game, 1 of 3 with a ribby, and then 3 of 4 with 2 ribbies in the other, contributing, helping out to a great weekend for Lonnie and the Florida State softball program. So Kaylee Harding and Beatrice Wallin, our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. Corey, it's April, so it's like I can just probably pick a guy from the baseball team and make him Player of the Week every week. But Florida State got swept, which sounds really dramatic, but kind of is, man. You know, they lost their first series of the season, and they got swept. Friday night, absolute heartbreaker. Saturday, like a hair-pulling kind of loss, and then Sunday was just it was a 9-7 final, but I don't even really think it was that close, really. Just, Notre Dame kind of came to play, and Florida State didn't. But here we are. Link Jarrett, Florida State alum, Notre Dame coach, brings his program in here, sweeps Meat and the Noles, and now everybody's sad. I'm kind of a little bit, it's April, so I have to kind of walk myself off the ledge. But the problems we continue to see happening, which is either chasing bad pitches and striking out, not having timely hitting, and the bullpen looking a little bit shaky, still happening. I still have faith we're going to Omaha, but they've got a huge week as well. I mean, they've got to go to Atlanta. We got the Gators again, don't we?
No, that's after Atlanta.
After Atlanta, and then Louisville after that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I was at Hauser. Friday night was nuts. I thought there was a good turnout, but it's funny. I wasn't all that excited by the energy in the crowd. And, they're clinging to this lead in the 9th inning, I think it was.
Not on Friday. It was 0-0.
Well, 0, yeah, we got like 12 innings. Yeah, it's like the 12th. And, Jonas Galaro comes into a really tough position. He gets a strikeout. I think he was like one pitch. Yeah, I think it was a full count or so. They're one pitch away from getting out of that inning, keeping the game going. And I'm like, where's the energy in this crowd? And Hauser comes alive, like full-throated, like Game 7, pennants on the line, whatever you want to, whatever is the most raucous environment for a baseball stadium, and just gets tagged for a home run that goes into like the parking lot. And just the entire air comes out of that place. And like I don't blame Jonah for that. But that was the kind of week it was for them. Like they did have moments, like everybody started getting behind the Noles, and then when it came down to nut cutting time, nope. So what do you think about the team right now as we stand here coming off of a sweep?
I'm not trying to, you said not to be dramatic. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I don't see a ton of hope because, they play a lot of, seemingly anytime they play a close game, they lose it. But that comes down to two things. They can't hit bullpens. They can't hit the good pitchers in a bullpen from the other team, and their bullpen isn't very good. Scalaro has been very good in his career. This year, he ain't it. He had 2 losses this weekend. One he went 2 1/3. It's not his fault necessarily that the team can't score in the 10th or the 11th, but you're one strike from getting out of it in the 12th, and you can't do it. Meanwhile, their guy did. And then, Saturday, same thing. He comes in a really tough situation, and he doesn't give up a screamer of a hit, but he's not striking the guy out. Notre Dame put the ball in play. Florida State doesn't do that in those spots, typically. It's just there's not other than, Hubbard wasn't even good this weekend, which they needed him to be. And then Ross Dunn came out and just soiled himself when they absolutely needed him to have a good outing. He did not. And I think that's 2 bad outings in a row for him. Which, that's not good. That's not a good sign as we get to April that he's starting to, regress. You want him to get stronger. Messick was great because Messick is great. It was a 0-0 game into the 12th. Their pitcher's really good too. Notre Dame has some solid guys, but you know what Notre Dame doesn't do? They don't boot the ball, and they don't strike out a ton. Now, they struck out some this week because they're going against a pitching staff that leads the country in strikeouts. But still, it's just like, what do you see, Aslan, with this team moving forward that gives you hope that, okay, they might find it? Like, Terrell is what he is. He might hit you a home run a weekend, and that's probably going to be the only hit he gets. Carry on, can't hit.
Oof.
I mean, he's a really good fielder. I like him as a fielder. He's made the defense solid, but he can't hit. He's a 200 hitter, 210. He wasn't a great hitter at Florida. So you're looking this offense. I was thinking about this. It's kind of like my perspective with Meat right now is my same perspective with Norvell. Where's the offense, man?
Yeah.
Like, where's the offense? Since Meat took over, this offense has been pedestrian at best and pretty gross at worst. And, they went 12 innings in a game on Friday without scoring a run at home. It's not a good offense at all. Why? What's going on with it? Like, you've been doing this for 25 years. You didn't all of a sudden forget how to coach, but something's getting lost in translation because these guys aren't any good. Like, collectively as a group, they're not any good. They don't get good hit. They don't get big hits when it matters. They don't, they strike out a ton. It's not a good offense from 1 to 9. And you've got some pieces. Like, you like Tibbs. You like Ferrer. Lacey's a good hitter. You would think Tyler Martin coming back would have been a nice sign. He's played in 4 games this year, and I'm pretty sure they've lost them all. They're 0 for 3 with him in the lineup, and he should be an addition to the lineup. And there's not a lot of slugging. There's not a lot of pop. And that's where I wonder, okay, it's not like they're missing somebody that's going to come in and rectify things. This is who they are. They're a light hitting, heavy on starting pitching, bullpen is iffy. Well, look, man, when you play good teams, you get into late games, there's a reason you keep losing these 1-run games. And what are they in extra innings? 1-6? 1-5 or 1-6 in extra inning games? And the one was a 17. They didn't score for 7 innings until they finally scored. Like, they can't hit.
You were there, though. You were there. You're the lucky charm.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'm the good luck charm. They can't hit good bullpens. They can't. And I don't know why, but any decent arm out of a bullpen, it's lights out, man. That's a wrap. And it's been that way all season, and I don't see why that would change. I hope it does. I hope we're all celebrating in Omaha together. But the problems that I saw in 6 weeks ago, a month ago, they're just the same. And you don't want to overreact to one series because Notre Dame is good. They're top 20. But, man, look, that's a guy that would have come to Florida State. That's a guy that's from Florida State. He just swept you on your field. That's not a great look. It's not. I don't know how else to put it. It's not. They don't make errors. I think they made 1 error all weekend, Notre Dame. They had, you know how many errors Notre Dame had coming into this series, Aslan, on the season?
12.
8 for this season. Florida State, by comparison, had 31 coming into the series. And keep in mind, Florida State has their pitchers strike out more than anyone. So they're on a team where less balls get put into play
Right.
than any other defense in the country, and they still had 4 times as many errors as Notre Dame. Why? I want to know why. It's not like they don't practice defense. Are they recruiting the wrong kids that don't understand how to? I mean, what's the secret that Link has for keeping errors from happening that Meat hasn't had, and this Florida State program in general hasn't had for a decade? And it gets tiring to see defensive mistake after defensive mistake, man. I don't know how else to put it. But again, it was just one weekend. It's their first series loss of the season. So, and they didn't lose to a bad team. They were in every game, save for Sunday, I guess. They had to come back at the end. They very easily could have won 2 of those 3, but they didn't. And I think, what concerns you is why can't they ever score late in games? They really struggled there. Shout out to Colton Vincent. It's a big hit for my man. He's up to 250 now, Aslan.
That is close to 300 in ACC play. It was all those
Man,
non-conference games that brought him down.
I was going to say, he's got like the 3rd highest average on the team right now. So he's up to 250 now. So he's doing a decent job back at the plate now. But yeah, they just don't hit well enough for me to think they have any real shot in the postseason, because that's when you face even better pitching. And they don't hit good pitching. I know you can say a lot of teams don't. A lot of teams find a way to scratch together on a Friday night. They can scratch together 3 runs. or if they are in extra innings with NC State, they don't have to go 8 innings before hitting an oppo home run. Like they can find a way to manufacture offense and scratch offense. They don't. If they have a lot of speed, they don't utilize it. They don't make a lot of consistent contact when it matters. They don't get a lot of big hits. Hopefully that all changes and they turn the switch. But right now it's not looking great. But shout out to Parker Messick. He was awesome.
Yeah. The silver lining is I think Carter Putz and Ryan Cole. I don't know how many hits. I mean, Notre Dame, they had 10 on Sunday, 5 on Saturday. I mean, they had to have like 70% of their hits, like these two players, just Putz and Cole.
Right.
So it
Wouldn't
wasn't
that
like
be
they were,
cool to have somebody that went off?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Or learn to avoid those guys. What bothered me the most was Saturday. Meat was really upset after Friday's game. I mean, listen, they got shut out. They played 12 innings. They couldn't get one single run across the plate. And he said there was going to be changes. He even said there was going to be changes going into the series. And then he said in his postgame on Friday night, like, you know, if guys aren't going to do what we want them to do, he's like, I'm going to find guys that are going to do it. I think he said that last year too. He comes in Saturday, throws an entire crazy righty-only lineup on his card, and just instantly in the first inning, like almost starts second-guessing himself and subbing guys out. Like Cade Bush was a starting first baseman. He didn't even get to bat. He was taken out of the game for Alex Terrell. I don't know if Terrell's got a hamstring injury or Cade Bush had a hamstring injury. We really didn't get kind of an explanation on it, but that was the reason why he got pulled out of the game. And there was a really crucial moment in the game where James Hibbs is getting ready to go to bat, Meets like calls for time and is coaching up Tibbs like in a really big situation. It's like, hey man, you've coached him all season long. He knows what to do in this situation. I don't know if you need to pull him aside and give him another pep talk. First pitch is like at Tibbs' face. He swings at it. Then he attempts in vain to bunt. Apparently on the telecast, Chip Baker said that Tibbs never even bunted in high school, and you're going to have him try to bunt in that situation.
Well, he better not have bunted in high school, or his high school coach should be fired.
Yeah, he's really good. I like Tibbs.
That kid's a pro hitter. He doesn't need to be bunting against some junior from Collins Hill High School.
But then he pinch runs for Terrell, which I get it. I guess you're trying to go all in at that moment. Which
Terrell did pull something run into first on Friday night. He did tweak. I guess it was his hamstring.
Yeah, he had some sort of device. I guess so. It must have been him. He had some sort of device on his hamstring. And it must have felt ready by the time it was Cade Bush's at bat or whatever. So you start with Cade Bush, you bring in Terrell, you pinch run for Terrell. You're now going to the 9th inning on your third string first baseman. And then Brett Roberts, who had a really good Friday night in the field and was doing really well Saturday, gets pulled for Jackson Green. Notre Dame hits a pop-up can of corn into foul territory right next to first base. Your two defensive substitutes cannot track down a can of corn in foul territory right next to the first base bag, and you end up losing that game. And then you play the shift, and they make you pay for it. Like, Florida State is playing the shift, and other teams are going away from it and making them pay, and meanwhile, Florida State is hitting into every other team's shift. And, man, I think Meade is so frustrated because after Saturday, he's like, listen, we know if we execute the pitch, and he was talking about the game-winning hit for Notre Dame, he's like, 90% of the time it's going to go where we've got the shift. And I guess, the pitch wasn't executed right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Florida State's the team that the 10% is going to happen to them in the sport of baseball. They're the ones that fall prey to this sort of stuff. I don't know, like, what Meate's principles and ideals are, man, but I don't know if he's just getting too much locked up into what they're doing data-wise. I don't know if he's going away from his gut too much. I know he's been always, kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to embracing data, but, like, at every turn of this series, like, Link outfoxed him. That sucks because that's a guy that wanted his job. And it's just one series, though. It's just one series, though. But
it is. And look, a lot of it comes down to, outfoxing or not. You get a hit. Link Jarrett, it's not like he called for the 2-run home run swing on Friday night. His kid just delivered. Florida State's didn't. I will say this, when it comes to, like, putting a whole right-handed lineup into the game like he wanted to because Notre Dame started a lefty. Well, how long did that lefty pitch, Aslan? An inning?
I don't even think. Yeah, like one in the third or something.
It's almost, and then Link started burning all those guys that he put because he didn't want Isaiah Perry batting against a righty. So now Reese Albert's playing, and now you burned Isaiah Perry. That's the when you go to a right when you want to talk about outfoxing. I don't know if that's the case necessarily that Link was planning on that, but he got Meat put in a whole right-handed heavy lineup against his left-handed pitcher. His left-handed pitcher went an inning. and all of a sudden he brings in a righty.
Yeah.
He did what?
1 2/3, but yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So he doesn't even make it through the second inning. Now you bring in a righty, and all of a sudden you're going to start pinch hitting for all those guys in your lineup with your normal starters, and now you don't have any bench left. And so, yeah, the Bush didn't play. Perry couldn't play. Like all these guys that you had in there all of a sudden weren't available anymore because you wasted them for an inning and an inning and 2/3.
Brock Mathis, too. I think Brock Mathis would have been nice to be able to maybe
I mean, again, he's an impact bat. He's a guy that can change the scoreboard. But, yeah, you don't want to – I mean, it's 5 losses in a row, though. It's not just they lost the season series. It's 5 losses in a row. And, again, in 4 of those losses, it's been in all 5 of those losses, it's been Ross Dunn twice, Carson Montgomery, Messick, and Hubbard. So, clearly, just having really good starting pitching isn't the key to everything. Because you've lost 5 games in a row. A team with this kind of pitching, and again, Dunn and Hubbard didn't pitch well on
Saturday
this weekend. But man, that might happen occasionally. But hey, pitch better, guys. But also, especially if you want to call yourself the best pitching rotation in the country. But yeah, man, if you can lose with this pitching staff, that's all on the offense, and that's all on the offense. Like go score some runs. Like, go score 12 in a game.
Yes.
Do that, man. That's whether it comes down to defensive replacements or bullpen decisions and Scolaro and all this. Man, at the end of the day, you're a average at best offense, and that's an issue. And I don't know why it would change in the middle of the season, but we're all crossing our fingers it does.
Yeah, and just last thing, Jackson Ballmeister came in.
Yeah, he pitched well, right?
He pitched really well, man.
I think he went that's good to see.
3 2/3. I don't think he even surrendered a hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. So maybe at some point he can be your closer. Again, I know it's just 1 game, but and it's just you're trying to throw as many options as you can. But I still believe in Parker Messick. I still believe in Bryce Hubbard. I do think with Tyler Martin getting a little bit more, I mean, he hasn't faced live pitching in like 10 months. So let's give him another series or 2 to get kind of situated back in there. I think Brett Roberts at second base is really good. I asked twice to meet why they took him out of the game and didn't really get a good answer out of it. So, they still got pieces, but I agree with you, man. They just, I don't know, man, free up a little bit at the plate. Yeah, let's barrel it up a little bit. Let's get some offense going.
Put the barrel on the ball, gang. Yeah. Put the barrel on the ball.
All right, that was, I think, like almost 20 minutes worth of baseball.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
It's because we're so passionate, Corey. We're just so passionate about Florida State baseball. I mean, at least I am. If it cost money to win a College World Series, I would chip in on whatever it was. But it doesn't work that way. But it works that way in football, everybody. NIL is taking over whether we like it or not. It is the reality of the situation. And Florida State is ahead of the curve trying to get this all figured out. Rising Spear, risingspear.com. Check out the website. Get the information. You can find out how you can contribute because, again, if you want to win national championships in this day and age, you got to get players. And players cost money. It's just kind of the way it works right now. The thing, though, that should make everybody feel good about helping out with NIL with Rising Spear is that every single cent that is given to Rising Spear is reinvested into the student athletes. The student athletes don't get a cut taken out. There's no skimming off of it. There's no, fiduciary administrative costs involved in this sort of thing. And nobody else is doing that right now in the nation. Like Rising Spear is stepping up to the plate and doing everything they can to maximize the output and the reinvestment into the student-athlete experience at Florida State. Corey and I got the opportunity to talk to Bob Davis and Matthew Quigley at Rising Spear. Here are their thoughts on what NIL and Rising Spear can do for Florida State. Enjoy. Joining us from Rising Spear is Bob Davis and Matthew Quigley, maybe the team behind the team behind the team. But, gentlemen, we appreciate you being here with us. Huge weekend for recruiting, huge weekend for Florida State football, Bob. But how big of a weekend is this for you guys in the NIL world, and specifically over at Rising Spear?
Well, this is a huge week for us. But first, Aslan, thank you and Corey for having us. We appreciate it. Anything we can share with the Nole Nation, we want to do that. And I need to thank the Nole Nation for being patient with us. I know there's been people that have been real antsy about what's Rising Spear doing. This week, you're going to see what we've been doing, and it's going to hit the media with a huge splash, starting with this podcast. And we'll get through some of the stuff we're doing this week. But a big weekend. We've got the advisory board members, the Derek Brooks, and Charlie Ward's involved. We got everybody involved. We're all hands on deck this week.
Yeah, Matthew, I wanted to ask you, this is such a brand new world for all of us, because for years we've been told that you can't pay the players. The players don't deserve the scholarship is what matters, and the books and everything. Well, now the reality is here, and you can, and it's happening all over the country. I guess I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation for getting involved with Rising Spear? What do you think your goal is when it comes to Rising Spear?
Look, our goal, number one, our goal is to get Florida State back where it belongs, right? 14 years, top four finishes in college football, and top 5 recruiting classes. That's where Rising Spear is going to help out Norvell and staff. Now, as far as my motivation, right, it's to get Florida State better day by day here. We at Rising Spear, we have been really getting after at least the last 3 months, preparing for this week. This spring game week is going to be massive. We need all our Noles to go to risingspear.com, donate what they can. And, Bob's going to go into a little bit more on our different funds and in your options. But this is just an exciting time, guys. We got to get Florida State back to that top 5 level.
Bob, what are, I know we talked, I think it was back before signing day. It was a while ago. It was 3 or 4 months ago about the plan and what Rising Spear was and was going to be. What are some of the, for people that want to give money, what are some of the avenues they can do it? Number one, I assume the website will be the main way, but also what do they get to pick who it goes to, what sport it goes to? Are there ways and avenues for that to happen?
Yeah, Corey, there are. First of all, we're different than most every other NIL organization. As we talked before, we have Rising Spirit Gold and Rising Spirit Garnet. Gold is the typical NIL. The student athletes get endorsement deals. They get social media postings. They get appearance fees. There's a contract between a company and a student athlete to do something. People can give to that. They can say, I want to get involved in Rising Spirit Gold and I want it to be for football. They will be able to specify that on the website. If they want to give it to one of the girls' teams, anything that they want to do with that money, they can designate it and restrict it. Now, the other side is where other organizations don't have, and that's Rising Spirit Garnet. And that's going to be, the process is in the works, a 501c nonprofit organization. People can give to that, get a tax deduction. They can also restrict it to a sport. But what we do with that, you've seen it. You all have covered. We've sent 7 or 8 athletes at a time out to the Boys and Girls Clubs to play with the kids, to talk to them about drugs, to how important school is and making the right decisions and standing up to their peers about doing what's right. And we had the cheerleaders out, 3 cheerleaders go out and work with the girls at the Boys and Girls Clubs. And, that's giving back to the community. We're serving the underserved population. I think I told you then, Corey, it's a 3-way win. The donor, the person that gives the money to Rising Spirit gets a tax deduction. The student athletes get some compensation for getting out and doing things. But the community wins because we've got those kids out there helping nonprofit organizations with fundraising projects or just working with the kids. And that's, nobody else is doing that. It's unique.
Matthew, I think, speaking for myself, I can probably speak for you and Bob as well. I know Corey wanted to come to Florida State, but he wanted to diversify his educational background. We all fell in love with Tallahassee and the campus because of our friendships, the memories we made, just the social life, the entire college experience, what we fell in love with. And there's such a huge part of college fandom is that sort of shared experience. And for so many people to hear about NIL and money being the motivation, we kind of may forget that what we all are doing now is because we're getting paid to do these things. So does this future need to be embraced by those that might think that, we can perform the old way and we can rely on our laurels and everything will be done for the love of the sport and for the love of the institution?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that way of thinking is not going to get you a national title. Right. And I think this is where Bob and Alan, who are co-founders, really were able to kind of thread the needle for the perfect kind of solution to this problem, right? So a person that does not want to pay or does not want to think that they're paying a player, right, can donate to our Rising Spear Garnet side. And that is literally a charitable donation, right? You want to think Right? Bob had a great analogy the other day that our Rising Spear Garnet side, that's almost like the United Way of NIL funds, right? We're partnering with the Boys and Girls Club, like you mentioned, but we're also going to be partnering with the Special Olympics, with Best Buddies, and we're going to be putting on clinics, right, where our players can come and really work with this underprivileged youth in the areas, right? I mean, it's a phenomenal thing. And then on the other side, you have the gold, right? The gold membership side, the gold standard club, basically. And on that side, that's for someone that has, a multi-million-dollar company and they want to invest some marketing dollars into that, or, a real estate business that wants to just donate to Florida State and have somebody make an Instagram post or a social media post for their real estate business. So I really think that at Rising Spear, we've kind of thread that perfect needle for people that are kind of set in their old ways and don't realize how quickly that the college football landscape has changed.
You guys keep talking about how important money is. I'm pretty sure Jimbo Fisher said that none of those recruits got a dime. Like, that was all just they love College Station. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. I mean, he just signed the greatest class in history, but it's all because they love that cow college out in Texas. Wouldn't you want to live in College Station? And I was going to say this, Bob, and this is a legitimate question. It's going to sound as a joke, but I don't know if you saw I don't know. Number one, I guess I want to ask how it works with recruits. And I know I asked you this back in December too. With recruits, is it I guess I don't even know how to phrase it. How does it work with recruits? Or can you guys be in contact with recruits ahead of signing day?
Oh, we most certainly can, Corey, and we are. I in particular talk to a lot of parents, get to know them. I get to explain gold and garnet and hear the stories that they've been told by other schools. And in Florida, the rule is the university can't direct compensation to a student athlete, can't even talk about that. And we cannot make a offer to a student athlete pay for play. We cannot say, you've got to come to Florida State, you've got to make the team. So we don't offer contracts to student athletes before they come to Florida State. We have everything in place. So once they're here, they've signed their paperwork and they're a student. We've got a deal for them, and they vary. I mean, we've got some deals that have gone into the 6-digit number. We've got some that have been show up for a real estate open house for $200. Just all kinds of things all over the board. But yes, we can talk to them, and we hear stories about what they're being offered by other schools, and it's scary. As you saw, one of the recruits that we lost on National Signing Day, we had a deal put together for him and had tried to get a hold of him and had discussions with him prior to that regularly. And come 3 days before National Signing Day, we have this good energy drink deal. We want to let him know that we have a deal, can't give him the details, and he won't return our phone calls the last couple days before National Signing Day. So, I mean, we knew something was up there, and, our deal wasn't $1.5 million or whatever his ended up being. So people who don't like NIL, and I'm one of them, I don't like it, but it's something we've got to do to stay competitive in this environment.
Well, I was going to say Fred Taylor talked about the old running back from, well, he's not that old. He's younger than me, but the running back from Florida from the 90s talked about how he took $50,000 from Georgia during his recruitment and still went to Florida. But that can't happen here, right? Like, there's no contracts binding with these kids unless they step foot in Tallahassee, correct?
Well, that's the case for us. But you heard about the kid out in California that is in 9th grade, 10th grader, 11th grader, that they've offered him an $8 million deal to go to an unnamed school. And he's going to get $350,000 before he ever leaves high school. So somebody's betting or has got some kind of assurances that the kid's going where he's getting the money from, if that's a true story. I mean, a lot of these stories, you wonder how valid they are because they're not verifiable.
It's funny, Corey. I was actually 3 days ago, I was talking to Charlie Ward about this, right? And he wanted to make sure at Rising Spear that we are not going to be paying current high school athletes, because he does not believe that's the way that you go about it. And I completely agree, right? At Florida State, that's not how we're going to do it. But once you step foot on campus, we're going to explain our relationship, right, during the recruitment process. We're going to say that we're here for you once you step foot on campus. But until then, like, we are not going to be cutting you a check or a bag of cash. Like, that's not going to happen at FSU. Like, we're not going to play that game.
So it's like an agent in a way, with a prospective client. Like, if you choose me after your eligibility is up, this is what we could do for you. But until then, you're not getting a dime from me. I mean, I know agents have guys that maybe shove money kids' ways, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that's the purpose of it, is we're not giving you money until you step foot on campus.
That's true. I mean, I have talked to some agents that have said, we might be able to do some deals with student athletes at Florida State with the hopes of when they sign their contract, they'll remember what we did for them in college. Right. But no, they're not. There's no, the day they leave FSU, all NIL contracts are gone.
We can segue right into that. This week, you guys keep talking about how big it is. Obviously, the website goes live Monday morning. And I'm sure you'll be paying attention to that and seeing what kind of money and donations come in immediately. What else is happening this week that people should be looking out for?
100% of our donations that come in through the website are going to the student athletes. No other NIL collective in the country is doing that, right? And Bob and Alan, I mean, talk about the unconquered spirit, right? They have literally ponied up to make sure that our student athletes are 100% covered, right? We are not taking a dime from them. I mean, it is an incredible thing that Bob and Alan have done.
We have signed a contract with a national collective. We're the first NIL to do that, I believe. And what it's going to do is it will be a website available to every student athlete that's affiliated with Rising Spear. They can go online and they will find hundreds of companies throughout the country, and a lot that will be just Tallahassee specific. People that have said, we're interested in doing something with student athletes. Here's what we want to do. We're looking for the right person. Student athlete, tell us why it should be you. And they can communicate on the web back and forth and negotiate a contract. It's a subscription-based model, but Alan and I, as I told you early on, Corey, Allen and I don't want to take money for this away from student athletes. So all of the overhead costs affiliated with Rising Spear are being absorbed by Allen and I. Every penny that is raised will go to student athletes. And, that's certainly unique in the industry because everybody got into this business to make some money, a new opportunity. Some people are charging as much as 30% on a contract. Our student athletes will get every penny and the companies won't have to pay any fees for that. So this collective will be announced officially very soon. But it's just going to be incredible. I mean, when you see the website, you literally can go on and there may be a General Electric that's looking for somebody to do some stuff in Central Florida. And it has all the players on there that have signed up. It gives all their metrics, how many social media followers they have, what their interaction ratios are. Everything's on there. So the student athletes know what the companies are looking for, and the companies know who they're talking to, and if it's really somebody that can really work magic with their products. So it's that's part of everything coming out this week. Matt, why don't you go through the whole week of what's going on?
I mean, a massive media blitz, right? We have a bunch of social media posts that are going to be coming from former players, current players that we have that are actually Rising Spear, right? Signed contract athletes. We're doing this podcast. We're going to be doing the Jeff Cameron show. And then for this weekend, we have an incredible member benefit, which really nobody else in the country is doing. And once again, it's thanks to our board. But so Friday night, we're going to be doing a rooftop experience, which is across from Madison 51 in College Town for our larger donors, right? This is a $500 a month and up donor. right? And then the same thing on Saturday at the game. We have, thanks to our donors, we have access to a box suite, and they will be invited into the box.
That's incredible. So this all happens this week. The Garnet and Gold game, not just your daddy's exhibition. Everybody, it's your time to pony up and help out the program to the best of your ability. And there's so many options, and those will all be available again over at the website, risingspear.com.
One more thing, everybody, risingspear.com. We are at Rising Spear NIL on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Give us a follow, interact with us. Like Bob touched on earlier, we hired Clayton Campbell at K-Camp, who used to work with the football office. We hired him to be our social media manager and to create some content for us. And Gene and Warchant, Aslan, Corey, Ira, Jeff, Tom, I can't thank you all enough for the opportunity to speak about Rising Spear. We need Nole Nation to support, guys. Every little bit counts. Please donate. Tax deductible. Let's get it.
As advertised, it's kind of becoming a Monday staple of the program. Don't get too used to it. There are going to be quiet periods, and I'm not going to do this all the time. But Michael Langston's here with us to talk about recruiting. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. It's a long week, but a busy one with visitors, and then I had the Brevard recruiting stop, which was really fun early this week. So, yeah, good week, man.
Right on. All right. Last week, they got a commitment from a wide receiver from the high school ranks, everybody. Let's celebrate. Darren Goldie Lawrence. I know you and I did a video on it, but for those who listen to the podcast and maybe don't catch everything we do on YouTube, Darren Goldie Lawrence, who kind of guided this Florida State having that receiver out of Sanford, Florida, Seminole High School.
Yeah, Sanford Seminole. So he's not having to change his nickname too much in college, but very physical receiver, but fast. There's not usually guys that are 6'1", 6'2", 190 that have the speed there. It's usually, they're very physical across the middle, but this kid's very good after contact and very good as far as his hands. And speed is really good. So, I think it's a big weapon for them to add because they don't have too many guys that do what he does. We know Malik McClain has speed as far as being a big guy, but there's not a lot of guys with speed, and so I think he adds a different dimension to what FSU needs on this wide receiver roster and kind of a big position of need. So I think they've always wanted him. I put in my recruiting wrap that he actually committed to the staff like 3 weeks ago. So that was kind of interesting here. And then basically, Kewan Raffle have told him, like, hey, when you put on the whites, man, for the photo shoot, that's commitment time. And he's like, I'm not ready to put on the whites on the first visit. And then the second one, he's like, okay, coach, I'm ready for the whites. So I think this is kind of one they wanted, they coveted, and, they got it done.
All right, let's talk about the trenches. There's a huge thread over on the warchant.com premium recruiting board running down maybe a half dozen or so guys from this past weekend. Shoot, closer probably to a dozen. That's for the paid subscribers, so go check that out. But a couple guys I kind of want to touch on, Michael, and for every reason, if you want to pivot off of them and maybe focus on somebody else, by all means, feel free to do so. But Connor Stroh and TJ Searcy, two dudes in particular I thought might be a little bit interesting to talk about because they're both 2023 and we're all about the here and now. Connor Stroh, my goodness, 6'7", 345 out of Frisco, Texas. Rivals 250 guy. But that's just a lot of meat. That's a lot of beef right there, 6'7", 345. Were you able to catch up with Connor Stroh after his visit this weekend?
Yes, we did, and he told us some interesting things. He said, they did. Yeah, Atkins does like a test for his offensive line where he makes them say do the alphabet backwards and or something to that effect, and so it kind of tells you like your knowledge or your knowledge of just things in general, and so that really shocked Connor in a positive way. I think Atkins in general was really good with him, and I think certainly is a great first visit. I mean, he didn't know much about him when he came there, and certainly they nailed it. What you want to get out of the first visit, because you always want to give them enough on the first visit that, hey, they're itching to get back and come back for a second visit. And I think that's what they did. Do I think they're in like his top 3 or no? I don't think they're quite that high, but I think they're in his top group. Maybe 5 or 6, and I think it's really they just kind of set up for the second visit. And of course, every time you see an offensive line, because I see these guys when they arrive, and they always get out of a small car. Like the big guys are always in a small car. So you see this monstrosity of a man getting out of this small car was kind of funny, but. Yeah, he's definitely everything they say as far as profile is he definitely fits the bill, and I think they did what they wanted to do coming out of this visit.
Well, TJ Searcy, meanwhile, 3-star defensive end out of Thomaston, Georgia, Upson Lehigh, 6'5", 250, 3-star TJ Searcy. How serious is the pursuit of him, and how serious is Searcy's interest in Florida State, do you think, Michael?
Yeah, this is like his 3rd visit this spring, so he's certainly very interested in FSU, and I think the feeling's mutual. I think FSU is very high on him, and I would say FSU sits in the best position already with him, from what I've been told and what I've checked on, Priestley, and he visited on Thursday. Came by and he spent a lot of time at FSU, watched the scrimmage or watched a practice. Shouldn't say scrimmage, but watched a practice. And I think he really likes kind of what they do and kind of just the feeling he has when he's at FSU. So I think they sit in a good spot with TJ Searcy right now.
Anybody else you want to add before I have to ask you about Desmond Ricks?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest guy that I thought was Zachariah Owens.
I just pulled his profile up. 6'7", 350, 4-star out of McDonough, Georgia. Eagles Landing Christian. Is that Estes? Is that what high school he went to? That name sounds familiar, Eagles Landing Christian.
I think so, but
I'll look it up.
I'm not sure.
Carry on. Zachariah Owens, 4-star, 6'7", 350 offensive tackle. My goodness.
Like, I'm 6'1", dude, and this guy made me feel like I was a midget. Like when I was around.
A little person.
He was or small little person, whatever you want to call it.
2022.
But okay, don't want to offend anybody, but this kid was massive. I mean, even around Alex Atkins, and Alex is like a big dude, but this guy he makes a lot of people look smaller. I think this was the guy that for me they focused the most attention on. There was Connor Stroh, there was several guys in there. Eddie Pierre Louis, who's a 2024 4-star. These are all guys that they like, but my impression was Zachariah was the one that they just pulled out everything. Norvell basically ran to the parking lot to meet him when he got there. He visited FSU for 3 days. I think he's there finishing up on Sunday. Obviously, I got it with him Saturday, and I could really tell like FSU made a major jump. I think he had said FSU, Clemson are in his top 2, and FSU moved up, and he's definitely seemed like he was going to take an official visit for sure to FSU. So I think he's a guy that really I feel like before this visit I didn't know what the chances are, and then kind of learning what's important to him, which he said the biggest factor for him is relationships, and we know what FSU does with relationships. So and Atkins involved, I think there's a real shot, as far as FSU. Anytime you got Clemson involved, it's tough to overcome, teams like that, especially him being from, the Carolinas. But I think when you start talking about relationships, that's where FSU really separates himself from a lot of schools. So I think Zachariah was my biggest takeaway, where this guy is going to be a major target for the Noles. I think he's a guy to keep in mind and watch, and people can go and read my breakdown on the recruiting wrap of him, and certainly I think they made an impression.
All right. IMG, defensive back, number 2 overall prospect in the entire country, Desmond Ricks. Is this real? It's real, man. And if he gets bumped up, he could be the number 1 player in the country. Hey, where have we heard that? Oh, that's right, Travis Hunter. You left him at the altar. Okay. But yeah, we've heard this before, but yeah, it's real. In fact, I think FSU is the favorite. We've heard, saw the story about Alabama and FSU, but I think right now FSU is the team on his mind. I think he is big on, being a part of something that's really kicking off. I think with Desmond, I think that's a big deal. I think it's important to him. I mean, Alabama, they get top guys all the time. They get guys like Desmond Ricks all the time. But with Florida State, it's got something, a click there, and he's also,
he's connected really well with Marcus Woodson. I kind of started to sense this kind of momentum building when he visited that one Saturday. I think it was a few weeks ago, and then he was supposed to be gone, and then he just shows up the next morning on Sunday. Yeah, it was a short visit on Sunday, but it kind of tells you kind of where it's trending, that he does not want to leave. He just wants to stay there longer and comes back another day, an additional day. So I think it's real, and he could reclassify from what I've heard, but that's still up in the air. He could reclassify to 2023. But I think he's a guy that, currently I think FSU is the team to watch.
Look at that. Desmond Ricks, again, he's the number 2 overall prospect in the entire country for 2024. Now the spring game's coming up this weekend, which means a huge weekend of recruiting and visitors. I'm sure you and Austin will have a thread posting all the guys that you're expecting. I don't know if there are any guys you kind of want to touch on, but I don't know, Michael, if I were to say, I don't know, like 6 5-stars will be on campus this weekend. Do you think it'll be more, less, or is that about right around it?
I'd say, maybe a little lower.
Okay.
I wouldn't go that high with 6 5-star, but I think there's going to be a lot of top-tier elite talent that's on campus this weekend. I think Brandon Ennis is one that has mentioned that he's likely going to come. Now, obviously, I'm going to confirm all these guys, confirm with the FSU contacts, get my list together, but I expect it to be a massive list, and I told people this last weekend that I think FSU's kind of almost pulling back the reins of some of these guys to visit because there's so many. There's such an attraction for recruits that want to see this spring game. So I think it's going to be a well-attended game. I think you're going to have a lot of top prospects for 2023, 2024, probably even some 2025 guys that are considered elite. And I think it's going to be a busy weekend for me and Austin Cox as far as getting up with guys, but that's a good thing, because that means then positive stuff's working. And it's almost like for the spring, this is kind of like the climax of kind of all the guys you got on campus for the spring, because I think it'll kind of slow down somewhat after this because kids have spring ball starting on late April or early May. So I think this is kind of like the final parts of the spring. So I'm expecting several 5-stars to be on this list and be on campus at FSU. So I think it's going to be certainly a well-attended event.
All right. Well, check it out, everybody. In the meantime, over on the PRB, the Premium Recruiting Board, Michael and Austin will have you covered on all the news involving Florida State recruiting. So thank you to Michael. Thank you to Matthew Quigley from Rising Spear. And for Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida.